I am banging the gavel. We'll call to order the May 10, 2021 Emergency Board Meeting to discuss the recent proposed amendments to House Bill 3065, scheduled for a public hearing tomorrow, May 11th at 8 a.m. in the Joint Transportation Committee. Gary, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith. Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. Thank you. Today we are holding this meeting virtually only, while I strive to have our meetings in person due to the last minute nature of this meeting and the fact that some commissioners are en route from Hood River after attending the Association of Oregon Counties meetings. We decided to keep it simple and have it remote. Gary, would you introduce the item, please?
Yes, Chair Smith. This is to discuss Clackamas County's position on House Bill 3065, the -8 proposed amendments. Chris Lyons, Government Affairs Manager from Public and Government Affairs, will explain what this is. Chris, please go ahead.
Hello, Commissioners. So some background on this issue. Over the past 2 months, Speaker Kotek has been working with key jurisdictional partners to refine her original -5 amendments to HB 3065. You will recall we spoke with you about these over the past couple of months as well. These amendments are to be gut and stuffed into HB 3065 for the purpose of addressing the funding deficiencies from the transportation package, HB 2017 from 4 years ago. And specifically that funds are made available going forward that will allow ODOT to advance the bottleneck and tolling projects. So the county has participated in each of these stakeholder meetings that the speakers brought together, and we've coordinated very closely with Washington County and Representative McLean and ODOT and the Speaker's office. So that amendment is now public, and there will be a public hearing on the amendment tomorrow morning in the Joint Transportation Committee at 8 a.m. So the county, Speaker Kotek has conveyed to us that she is hopeful that we can be in full support of that amendment and speak to it at the hearing tomorrow. So in terms of the department support, PGA has been working very closely with DTD for weeks on this issue. And at the start, I will just say that these amendments are a vast improvement over the current status quo stemming from HU 2017. The county, through this process, has put forward suggestions for improvement on the language based on the board's transportation values that you had approved about a month ago. And these amendments now, by and large, reflect those requests. While there are a couple areas that we would prefer to see written differently, the amendments are a consensus product and they do not violate any of your values. So I want to highlight a few of the key changes. First, the Rose Quarter penny will now be a flexible penny, and it will enable ODOT to be able to begin constructing some of these bottlenecks in the near term, especially I-205, which is ready to go early next year. Second, the bottleneck projects, including 205, the Rose Quarter, and the Boone Bridge, are now specifically named in the bill as eligible recipients of this flexible penny funding. Third, the language in the amendment remains flexible, which will allow ODOT to be nimble in its decision-making on these projects as the situation evolves. Fourth, funding decisions will continue to be overseen by ODOT going forward and not by local governments. They will coordinate with us as those decisions are made. Fifth, tolling is stemming from HE 2017 and the intent established in that. This language continues to make clear that tolling has dual purpose. It is for managing congestion as well as funding the highway improvements. And fifth, I just want to point out that the money's materializing from the tolling being implemented can be used on parallel routes for things like diversion, which is important for Clackamas County. So in terms of our recommendation, staff, when we were looking at this, we asked ourselves, what to base it on. And at the end of the day, this amendment meets all of the items that you had established in your transportation values, and it does not violate them. Like I said, there are a few areas of language that we, feel like could still be improved, and we are going to keep fighting for some edits here and there. But at its core, we feel like we're in a good place, and this is much better than the current status quo. So our recommendation is that the board support these -8 amendments and continue to vocalize the need to complete the I-205 Phase 1 and Phase 2 bottleneck project per the original intent of HB 2017. And happy to answer any questions.
Chair, Commissioner Salvis has his hand raised.
Yeah, so the reason we're here, colleagues, is because Chair Smith and I, as your special ops group, could not come to agreement. Chair Smith is inclined to support this, and I am not, and I held fast, so we're having this emergency meeting. I know that we're all getting stuck on this flexible penny. I like the flexible penny aspect, but if you read the bill, which I did, and I will read it again tonight because I didn't get a chance to really study all of the 44 pages in detail. There's a lot of detail there. This is a tolling bill. This endorses tolling. And frankly, I appreciate staff's interpretation that somehow this is not in conflict with our value statement, but it's in conflict with the very last sentence. So I just want to put that out there that most of the language is about tolling, variable pricing, congestion pricing, all the above. Most of the bill is about tolling. This endorses tolling, and it will expand it in perpetuity as far as we're concerned. But anyhow, that's my opinion. I will not be supporting this.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm going to make some statements here that the reason why we wrote our transportation value statement is because this board does not like tolling. The previous board did not like tolling, and the previous board to that did not like tolling, and we made very strong statements against tolling. However, tolling has passed in Oregon is the reality, and it passed in 2017, and it has been approved by the federal government. Tolling will come regardless of our opposition to it. I believe we should play well in the sandbox. We're going to get our project started in 2022 on the I-205. I despise tolling as much as the next person. I have reached out to the chairman of the Oregon Transportation Commission, Bob Van Brockland, and we have agreed to meet periodically to discuss these issues. I expressed our value statement to Bob regarding tolling. Please do not start tolling on I-205 sooner than any others. That makes no sense, and I explained to him why. And he gets it. He gets it. I'm not going to relay any more of our conversation to this because he told me to keep it private until signing die in the legislature. But it's the Oregon Transportation Commission that we're making these decisions. Now, this bill, when passed, Chris Lyons, will it go to the other house to be possibly, or does it just pass on to Ways and Means? Is there any more attempt to influence language on this?
This is it. It's in the Joint Transportation Committee, so it will go straight to the House floor and then the Senate floor.
Okay, fine. So people, I don't know how many decades we've been wanting to expand 2 lanes to 3 on the I-205, but we have a golden opportunity. I also think it's important to position Clackamas County as a government who is willing to work with state leadership. As you know, as any of you who've been in the legislature or around it, and there's several people on this board who fit that category, as a legislator or even a lobbyist, if you get 50% of whatever you're working on, you are considered a huge success, knowing that you never get 100% of everything that you want. Clackamas County is never going to get 100% of what we think our values should be because we are just Clackamas County. We are one county. Now, as far as the Boone's Bridge getting in the project, the Boone's Bridge is located in Clackamas County. I'll remind you all, and it does serve Clackamas County residents in Canby and Wilsonville and all those other areas. And to say that, we're not going to support this because Paul in the previous conversation said he's not supporting this because Boone's Bridge is in it, and Boone's Bridge is not part of our legislative priorities. Well, it was obviously somebody else's legislative priority, and it got mentioned. And as we know, Boone's Bridge is a terrible bottleneck through the I-5. I also have a sneaking suspicion that the governor wanted to see Boone's Bridge fixed as well. I mean, she does drive to Salem, to Portland, to her home occasion, I'm sure. And she is aware of the bottleneck as much as anybody. So I would suggest that we support this, we move forward. And then when it's passed, we continue to work with the Oregon Transportation Commission and anybody else who has influence to make sure that Clackamas County is not told before, or value congestion pricing, or whatever you want to call it, any sooner than the rest of them. Any other comments from folks?
Chair Smith, I see Commissioner Fisher's hands raised, and then Commissioner Savas.
Commissioner Fisher, go ahead.
Thank you. So I really empathize and understand what Paul is saying, and Chair Smith, I understand what you are saying. I would like us to agree and figure out some language to go into testimony to get legislative intent into the record about our position. I think that our last sentence of our value statement is pretty strong, and I think that we could wordsmith that to the tune of, and I haven't written it yet. I'm trying to get all my devices organized in my car. My gosh, it's just so funny. But the last little part of this document is not an endorsement or acceptance of any proposal to implement tolling or congestion pricing on I-205, as we believe it will have a disproportionate and detrimental effect on Clackamas County residents, businesses, and visitors. So I would like in our testimony for us to say, as tolling continues to be studied, we must, and you do better if I'm writing out what I'm thinking, but we must take into consideration and repair the disproportionate and detrimental effect any future tolling could have on Clackamas County residents and businesses. And that is because, unlike the rest of the region, that one little section that if you look at the map, it is the only way to get from point A to point B, and it's over that part of 205, and it's our residents that are going to be affected disproportionately than anybody else because there's no other option. So I really hear what Paul is saying.
And I do too.
I also know that with this bill, there is some equity for income considerations that is already put into these amendments. And I really, really like that because I don't want to see the people that are most economically challenged paying for what the region needs in regards to its infrastructure. It's got to be more equitably spread out. So I'm not sure who is testifying tomorrow, but for me to join in and supporting this, I want it put in the record, in the testimony, where we are, because
Sonia, why don't we
have a strong voice?
Sonia, why don't we just have, if Chris or whomever is testifying, just to read that statement that we support the bill with this caveat, and just read that statement that's at the bottom of our values document that you just read. And it's in the record.
Yeah, that might be, but I do want any study. I mean, I honestly, Chair Smith, I don't understand how in the world it's gotten this far with the on its face inequities for Clackamas County, honestly. So
Clackamas County isn't the only place that's told. I-5 in Multnomah County is told as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's a grid system in Multnomah County and Portland that makes it easier to go from one place to another. And there is public transportation along that side. So we don't have that on 205. So it is very different.
Well, I think that it's fine if we read the statement. If we go in there and we think that we're going to currently amend the legislation, we will lose out. We won't be in support of it. So I think reading our values into that, pointing out the grid system, like you say, is good. But I don't think we're going to be in a position to be able to amend the bill. Is that right, Chris?
At this point, no. We'll see how the hearing goes, I think is really it, because there are lots of other stakeholders still that have not yet really been consulted in this and will be putting their thoughts on the record. I might suggest, as kind of getting at what Commissioners Fisher and Savas raised, one approach you could take is to, as you're saying, in terms of your remarks into the record, you could just say, kind of pulling from our values, we support the amendment. We don't want tolling because it could have a detrimental effect on the county. But if it does move forward, here are different things that we would like to see. And that way you're, still putting on the record, tolling is not our favorite approach, but recognizing the fact that it may be coming. And I would also add, I would suggest that we identify in this meeting a commissioner to testify in the morning. I would imagine that most jurisdictions will be having an elected official do that.
Well, I can certainly convey the commissioner's thoughts on tolling as we go ahead. And Chris, you would write my testimony. But I do think we should be in support of this and moving forward. We've come a very long time, and the reason why we wrote the value statement, because we wanted to express our opinions on tolling and transportation funding. We wanted the world to know what we thought. We also realized that the horse has left the barn on tolling. We can't stop it. Absolutely, we cannot stop it. But I do fear, and this is a real fear, if we come out and not support this bill, that is not going to bode well how people view our government. And this goes to future considerations as well. I mean, it's just not about this bill. It's about the future bills coming down. Well, that Clackamas County Commission, can't make up their mind, or that Clackamas County Commission isn't playing well in the sandbox. I don't want us to be perceived as that way, because we're a growing county and we're players. We're major players in the Tri-Counties area, and we need to be able to move forward on stuff that, and we have to recognize what we can fix, and we have to recognize what we can't fix. We cannot stop tolling. We cannot fix tolling. What we need to do is just to be able to move forward and figure out how to negotiate tolling to our best advantage. That's my opinion. Any
Chair,
other comments from other commissioners? Yeah, Sonia, was that you?
Oh, Commissioner Savas was next, followed by Commissioner Schrader, and then Commissioner Fisher.
I want to first correct something that Commissioner Smith said. So I'm not here to oppose the Boone Bridge. My suggestion, frankly, my issue of raising the Boone Bridge is that it was outside the scope of HB 2017. 2017 did not identify the Boone Bridge. The studies that the studies that ODOT has done with who's using I-205 today is woefully Clackamas County residents. So the impacts to a toll on I-205 is clear to me and to ODOT that it is on Clackamas County residents. So, Chair, I appreciate your comments about Clackamas County being players, but the way this bill is written, Clackamas County residents will be the payers of the Boone Bridge and all these other projects. This money is not limited. Read the bill. This money isn't limited to Clackamas County or 205 or the Boone Bridge. This sets up a permanent fund. I urge you all to read the bill. I urge you all to read the bill. The other thing I will say is that the part of the thing that can be concerned and part of Oregon City concern is that they didn't study 99E through Canby to I-5. So what about all the diversion going through there? That wasn't studied or part of that. This is going to have huge impacts to Canby. So I will just say that Clackamas County residents will be disproportionately affected and will be affected. And I think that last sentence, the way it's worded in our value statement, I don't see how we could testify in favor of this thing. And don't get caught up on the flexible penny. Read the bill. There's very little about the flexible penny in the bill.
Chris, you mentioned parallel routes for diversion in the bill. What does that mean?
It means that the revenues that are generated through tolling can be used both on the interstate for those projects, as well as on the local roads off the interstate, to help adjust to accommodate vehicular traffic that are off the interstate.
Like 99E or Stafford or 65th or whatever their cut across streets are
Correct.
going to be.
99E would not fit under the definition of the bill. And by the way, the bill, the way it's worded is that the dollars could be spent anywhere from the Columbia River to I-5 on 205. It means that the dollars aren't only to be spent in Clackamas County along 205, anywhere on 205 in the state of Oregon. And the other thing about this is on the I-5 tolling piece of this, it only goes as far south as I-205. So Wilsonville doesn't get tolled, but they get the bridge.
The Boone Bridge has been added, just for clarity. That's in the latest version of the amendments. They did add Boone Bridge for tolling.
What section is that, Chris?
Let me pull it up.
Because if it's in conflict with the first sections without that, they need to change that first section, not add it, but clean out the section, because it says only south or no farther south than I-205 on I-5. I've concluded my comments.
Yeah, it's on page
Okay.
23 of the bill.
Any other commissioners? We've got to end this meeting soon. Who is in the queue? Please make your, Martha. Martha, are you in?
Yeah, Chris, where does our Clackamas County delegation stand on this? Just out of curiosity.
They don't have a position on this because this just was released, but they are supporting, as a caucus, they are supporting the 205 bottleneck project and getting it funded.
Okay, so we can technically say they are supporting this bill right now.
No, they do not have a position on this bill.
They don't. So we don't have any idea how our folks are going to vote from Clackamas County.
No, I think they'll be looking to us to help guide their votes because they've not been a part of these negotiations.
So nobody there is part of the Transportation Ways and Means Committee from our.
Representative Karim Power is the one Clackamas legislator that has been part of these conversations.
All right, and you have no idea what she has said on the subject.
Yeah, I think she would be supportive of this.
Okay. Well, I think we're between a rock and a hard place, and I'm a pragmatist. And I do think we're going to have to play ball with this. And I agree with what Commissioner Fisher said. I think it's going to be key that we get in the record that we are in no way endorsing tolling. However, quite frankly, if we want the money for our projects, we're going to have to support it. I've been around this
Thank you.
block, so I'm
Commissioners, I appreciate your comments, and everybody is right on this, and there's really nobody that's wrong. But as we move forward, we're just going to have to figure out and nuance this. And, you
Yep.
know, Chris makes a good point. We don't know what other jurisdictions are going to say. And I do think we need, if we testify on this, if I testify on this, I really need the economic equity portion. We really need to hammer home the equity, not only economically, but the equity of not tolling I-205 before the other places. And I think they'll get that. So I'm going to call for a motion. I think it's in your script.
All right, let me find it. All right. Okay, I move we support the -8 amendments and continue to vocalize the need to complete both phases of the I-2I bottleneck project per the original intent of HB 2017.
Do I have a
Will-
second?
Yep.
Did I hear a second? I'll second the motion. Any
Okay.
further discussion?
So I guess my question is, will this motion, okay, if we will support this, but we will have testimony. I just want to clarify for our legislative record that we will have testimony tomorrow that reflects our values and our real concern about the inequities of tolling I-205. That has to be on the record.
I agree 100%. That has to be on the record. Chris, are you ready?
We
Yeah,
would
Chris,
need
are you-
to,
Who's,
I'm writing this down. Yep.
okay.
was there somebody else talking? I'm sorry, folks. Mark, you've been quiet. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Chair Smith. I have some grave concerns about this. My concern is that, yes, I want to move forward and get this project going, but at the same time, the sentiment in the county amongst the people is very anti-tolling, and I'm concerned that if we support this, we're going to get steamrolled. That is going to pass, and then we're going to get told all the same. And I just want to make sure people realize that I've heard them say they don't want tolling,
Mhm.
and I support that, but I feel like Commissioner Schrader, I'm between a rock and a hard place right now.
You know, Mark, we don't control tolling. You do know that.
Yes,
And we can stand on the biggest mountaintop in our county and scream it the loudest we can, and it will fall on deaf ears. Tolling has already been approved. It's how we do it is what we need to be at the table and use our influence to work with people. And I started that process last week.
Respectfully disagree with that.
Okay.
Gary, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm assuming this is a wise way to go. I mean, Chris, I don't want us to be pariahs, I guess, with the rest of who we have to work with, which I think is knowing how having been in the legislature and having dealt with these kinds of machinations. I don't see any way I think if we don't support it, we will be totally dismissed and lose everything, would be my guess. I just know how things are done down there.
Oh, yeah, we'll never get Sunrise. They won't even look at the state highway projects in our counties. Are you kidding me? So you can kiss Sunrise goodbye.
Well, the issue is that that's how they play ball. Let's be honest here. And this is public record. This is
Yeah.
the quid. It's not right.
Yeah, I'll just chime in and say, we have been at the table negotiating in good faith, and they've incorporated pretty much all of our comments into this amendment. We can still, in our talking points, talk about the inequities of tolling and what it would mean for Clackamas County. But we are being asked to support this. And again, it does not violate our values, and that's what staff worked from in our negotiations.
Chair Smith, this is Tracy. Commissioner Fisher's hand has been up for a little bit.
Oh,
didn't
I didn't
see.
see that, Sonia. Go ahead. Sonia,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I am really torn about this because I don't like the idea of voting for something when I don't see what the testimony is. I know that as a lawyer who's done legislative research, what we say and what goes in the record actually is valuable and has some merit to it. And while it may be perceived that tolling is going to happen, how it happens, like you said, Chair Smith, is where the rubber meets the road, so to say. And we can, in our public testimony,
Right.
really put the framing around that. So it's not just the economic inequities of people that are lower income, but it's the geographic, and I don't quite know what the words are, but the geographic determinants that there are no other ways to travel through Clackamas County for our residents except through 205, the lack of public transit and the lack of a grid system. Probably those four things, and Commissioner Savas may have some other things. But because of those factors, when they study tolling, they have got to repair those disparities and how this rolls out so that our residents aren't left holding the bag for the funding the entire region's infrastructure disproportionately. We have to look at the back end and the outcomes of it.
I completely agree with that, but if we're not on the table, we'll be basically the lunch.
But what I'm talking about is how it's studied and what type of implementation plan would be developed. So this is where we can get in the record strongly stated what we need for our residents in Clackamas County.
And I understand that, but what I'm saying is pragmatically, if we don't support this, let's be direct, we will not have the chance to frame anything because that is how we will be treated. That is exactly how the legislature works. I've been there. It's not pleasant. It's not necessarily right. But if you want to influence whether or not we have tolling in Clackamas County, if we are dismissed, which they will do without a second thought, then I guess we'll look idealistic, but we won't necessarily be effective in what we long-term want to accomplish, which is to get I-205 enlarged and to get across exactly what you said, Commissioner Fisher. It's an equitable. We're concerned about its helping other areas other than our folks, and that will be a tremendous burden on the people that live in that one area, and it is not fair and it is not equitable. I don't see why we can't make a strong statement to that effect for the public record. And I will trust Commissioner Smith and Chair Smith and Commissioner Savas to do that.
Chris, are you taking good notes?
Yes, and I would just say, everything I've heard, we can absolutely include in talking points and still support the bill. I don't feel like they're at odds with one another. Getting those values on the record, they are absolutely from your value statement. The other thing I'd say is this isn't it. This is not the end of this process. The legislature is keeping this relatively high level and not being overly prescriptive, because more of these conversations will continue to play out at the Oregon Transportation Commission. So we will continue to use your values as this evolves from the legislative arena to the agency, because they're going to be looking at this process for the next many years. And, a lot of these details are going to be worked out through the OTC, not the legislature. And so, staff will keep monitoring that and operating off your values.
Thank you, Chris. Board, I'm going to call for a vote now. Tracy, would you please take the poll?
I have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Savas.
Paul, I can't see that. For some reason on my iPad, I don't see the hands raised.
So I just want to just tell my call, I just be remiss if I didn't say this. So we heard from Congressman Blumenauer, Congressman Schrader being against this. And on Wednesday at AOC, Congressman DeFazio was speaking before AOC and made the comments, which only one highway I can think of falls into this category, that it's unfair to toll a highway when there's no alternatives. You have standing, my friends, my colleagues, Clackamas County staff, Clackamas County residents, you have standing. You have the only section of highway that is considered to be tolling that has no alternatives. You shouldn't be afraid. This is not a time to be afraid of that we're gonna get punished. We're gonna get punished because we're standing up for our citizens who have no alternative. Sorry. But we have stood with, on Thursday night with our C4, we stood with our cities, we stood with our mayors, we stood with everyone that we would not. We would stand together, and we're going to abandon everyone
Oh,
today.
Paul, that's not true.
Sorry, that's not.
Paul,
That's
that
how
is not true. I'm not going to allow inaccurate statements to stand like this from this board. So I'd be very careful about what you say as we go forward, if we support this or not. I think that's very inaccurate. By the way, all of our entire congressional delegation is against tolling, even Merkley and Wyden, because if you will poll it, it's a smart political thing to do. It's a game. Of course, they're all going to come out and say, oh, we don't like tolling, but privately behind doors, they know that Oregon has to have it in order to get some federal money to come in. That's the other political game we have to be aware of. Come on, right, Martha?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
it's time to take the vote.
It goes.
Tracy, call the poll.
Yes. Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl, oh, I'm going to unmute you, Commissioner Scholl. Let's see.
Abstain.
Okay.
What?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Commissioner Savas,
No.
Commissioner Fisher,
I will potentially vote yes after reviewing the testimony.
We don't have potential. Commissioners, we do it now. The committee hearing is at 8 o'clock. I can get you all out of bed at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning and we can do this again. Now, come on. It's time to put up or pack up your bags and go home and we're finished. So we either need to vote for it or vote against it. And then I don't know what the heck our team is going to do tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Well, if we, my attitude is, as long as we have the value statement, I trust our team to get that testimony into the record. We don't have to support tolling to say we support, the bill in order to get the dollar. I just don't see it as mutually exclusive. I just don't. I can't get there with it. So I trust that the team will be able to do that. And I agree with the federal the federal delegation, come on. I agree with Tootie on that too. Seriously? They're not, they're listening to polls. They really are. And, you can't govern by polls all the time. No offense. So.
Chair, you have an active vote on the table. You need to finish the roll call, please.
I know, I'm waiting. Mark, what was your vote again?
Commissioner Scholl abstained, and Commissioner Fisher, I didn't hear her vote.
Commissioner Fisher.
I'm just not feeling comfortable moving forward until I read the testimony. I think it's really important. So
Okay.
I don't know how we want to resolve it. Maybe Chris.
Commissioner
to us
Fisher,
right
you
now.
need to place your vote.
Then I guess I will abstain because I don't have enough information.
Okay,
So
Chair Smith,
aye. Okay, the motion fails 2-1. I'm going to call another meeting at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Martha, where will you be?
okay, so I'll be on a plane to San Francisco and then on to Oregon for later that afternoon. The 6
So it's not
a.m.
going to be possible. It's not going to be possible for us to do this.
time is it? 3 a.m. my time? Tracy, help me out here. I'm time challenged, right? It is like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock your time.
It's 9 o'clock your time.
Right. Okay. So 7 o'clock. So I'm 3 hours and I'll be on a plane at 9 o'clock.
Um,
By 8:30, I'll be on the plane and off and running. Now, whether or not I can get on Wi-Fi and come to a meeting, I could try. Or we can meet later tonight if you guys want to get some language, Chris, and call us back, Chair. I'll stay up. I mean, I have to leave early tomorrow anyway. I'll stay up
Do it.
with that.
Gary?
Yeah, so commissioners, as policymakers, you decide the course of action and then staff implements it. So if you're just waiting for a statement to be read, then tell us what your policy is now and we'll write the statement. If you're waiting to read it first, to me, that means you're not prepared to give the policy. So respectfully, it sounds like you've made your decision, which is no position. So I think we're done, is my recommendation.
Okay. All right, yeah.
Chris, is the bill with the 8 amendments on your website that we can read it right now?
Yes, I believe it was emailed to you, but we
Okay,
can send it again. It's on the legislature's website too.
okay, thank you. Okay,
I sent the email, commissioners. The email I sent around 3 p.m. today or so includes the bill. So
okay. We just got back in from Hood River, so I'll read that as soon as we're done here.
Why, Mark? Why? I mean, it's too late.
Well, we could just remain neutral and call it good. And good luck.
What if staff wrote a statement reflecting everything you've said today about the concerns with tolling, about equity in tolling, that 205 is important to us. And so we cover all the highlights, but you're not taking a formal position. That way your views are still heard. People can read between the lines on what's important to you as a commission. Chris, is that of any help?
I don't know that it is. We've specifically been asked for a position.
I mean, it's okay to me to do that, but I don't know if it gets us what it gets us. I think we look like fools.
I would say so.
Chair, Commissioner
Martha?
Schultz's hand is raised.
Can I, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Scholl.
I'm really I'm very concerned that my vote is done I want to read those amendments. I need to read them. If we have another meeting later on tonight or early in the morning, I don't care. But I need to be able to go through that email from Gary and read those amendments myself. And I just got back just 20 minutes ago from Hood River, so I haven't seen that email yet.
Okay.
Well,
I have a
we could-
suggestion. Why don't Chair, let's have a meeting in 1 hour, and that gives staff time to write up a statement. Everyone can read the bill, and you can do us one more time. Are you willing to do
Yeah,
that?
how about 1 hour would be 6:45?
Or 7 o'clock?
Hey,
Okay,
Chair,
let's come back at 7 o'clock. I'm going to
Chair?
adjourn this meeting.
Chair,
No, I'm going to
Chair?
adjourn this meeting
Hello?
right now. And everybody can make their statements. They can add, they can tell Chris what you want in the value statement. People can go back and read it. But we're just, at this point, we're just starting to fight. And I don't want to do that with my colleagues. I do not want to fight with you. I want to come to some type of fair consensus. So with that in mind, I declare that this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
So are we meeting at 7 p.m. then? Chair?
Yeah, we'll come back at 7 p.m.
Okay, 7 p.m.
Okay.
3
Gary,
hours.
can you hear me?
Yes, Stephen, go ahead.
Chair, do not adjourn the meeting. You are recessing and you're going to reconvene in an hour.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Our notice is still valid.
Thank you. We will
Okay.
recess and reconvene at 7 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We are the Board of County Commissioners rejoining our discussion on House Bill 3065 with the -8 amendments that we've been asked to give our approval to. We are resuming that conversation. Does anybody want to say anything?
I'll say staff, Chris Lyons has sent you proposed talking points, so they're in your email. They came 10 minutes ago. So if you haven't had a chance to look, they're there. Then if you want to continue discussion and then ultimately someone make a motion and see where that goes. This is my suggestion. Thank
Okay.
So,
Have
so
you,
Chair, I do have a question for Chris. He,
Sure, go
in the
ahead.
first hour or so, or her first half hour, he said multiple times that we got a lot of what we asked for in the amendments. And I just wondered if Chris could actually cite those.
Yeah, off the top of my head, we asked that the projects be named. They are now named. There was a point when the one set of the amendments had broken out the 205 project into 2 projects, and it's one project. We had those merged into one. We encouraged them to keep the bill high level and not get too prescriptive in terms of how funds would be used for different purposes, such as, specifying percentages of, certain monies going towards transit, multimodal, or other purposes. And they left that very general so that ODOT has that flexibility. The regional penny, of course, was at the outset one of our top priorities. And I know there's 1 or 2 others I can look back and find.
Well, we have diversion, right? Was diversion one of our asks?
It's really been, part of the conversation most of the time. And I think for all the stakeholders, that one was important.
Okay.
So Chris, and like I said earlier at the first part of this discussion, I read the bill quickly once. I have not read it twice, and I intend to go through it line by line again. But I did not see, and perhaps it's there, maybe you can point it out to me, but we had asked for, whether it be revenue sharing or whether it be revenue directed to our particular section of the highway where there are no alternatives. And I didn't see any specificity to that. All I saw was the monies could be spent along the interstate, in this case, the highway. And that interstate was defined as from the Columbia River to Interstate 5, again, in the context of I-205. So is there any language in there that's actually specific to language specific that says in the area where there are no alternatives, there will be a focus on those dollars and investments made?
No, I believe that will be a conversation at the OTC.
Okay, that should be a talking point.
Well, exactly what specific language are you talking about?
Well, I think I just said it.
What?
In the area between, as the bill reads or the language reads, from the Stafford exit to Oregon City along 205, that target investments will be made to increase multimodal alternatives where there are none.
So you want them to invest, what does multimodal mean?
That's usually bike ped transit. We have been arguing that for years, for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years since this whole thing came up. So it's nothing new. But I just thought that we got everything. I mean, I think even our values speak to that, but it's not covered there with any specificity. My concern has been, just like everything else, when it comes to funding for the region, the dollars don't come our way. They seem that a greater proportion of dollars go somewhere else. And we're high and dry in Clackamas County because of this pattern. We don't have transit in Clackamas County like everyone else because of this pattern.
So I'll
So
chime in.
isn't this, what, Chris, go ahead.
I'll chime in and say, apart from funding the named bottlenecks, the bill does not direct funding to anything else specifically. Those decisions will be made by the OTC at a later date, when other things are figured out, such as the what is a corridor, how far off of the interstate may investments be made, or as the process is underway with the NEPA process for tolling, and that will determine where those mitigation measures may be needed associated with tolling. And so that's all to come, and it's I think would be premature for a bill like this because they don't have all the answers yet.
I have respect for everyone here. So I mean, no disrespect to anyone. I respect my colleagues, but on this topic, they added the Boone Bridge. That's pretty specific. So it seems to me that the only section of 205 that doesn't have any other modes, that they could be specific with that. So if they were serious and they heard us, it would be in the bill today. And it's not. Instead, we got the Boone Bridge, which the Boone Bridge needs to be, I agree, the Boone Bridge needs help. It's plugged up every day. I get that.
Chris, is this important section of I-205 called out in the -8 amendments?
Yes.
Okay,
But not the project, the alternative part of the project I'm speaking to. That is not spelled out.
but is there alternative? But Paul, I think you're moving the goalposts here. We're not
Oh, no,
here
I'm
to
not.
discuss. I think you are. I think you are, because this has to do with the expansion of the I-205 for cars and possible retrofitting of the Abernathy Bridge for earthquake seismic activities. As far as multimodal, yes, that's in our value statement. But Chris, does this bill address multimodal?
Yes, it specifies that multimodal projects may be funded. And that's as specific as it gets.
So I don't understand what the objection is, Paul. If the multimodal is listed, I don't understand your objection to
Okay.
thinking that we don't have multimodal, is what I'm saying.
I'll restate and emphasize. So the bill says those investments can be made anywhere between the Columbia River Bridge or the Glen Jackson Bridge, the Columbia River on I-205, all the way to Interstate 5 where they merge. It doesn't say this 5.8 mile section. Not only that, it says may. It doesn't say shall. If they were serious, they would say it shall be invested in along this 5.8 mile section.
Okay,
If that helps.
okay, any other commissioners want to have a comment?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yes. In reading the House bill, I'm concerned about if it passes, the ability to reprioritize and redistribute tolling revenue instead of using that revenue to do the critical expansion on I-205 that we need, and then get rid of the tolling. It looks to me like that if this passes, this tolling could go on for a way into the future, paying for other projects between I-205, I-5 intersection and way north. I'm concerned about the future impact on people in Clackamas County. They got to pay for that tolling even after the I-205 is done. This to me looks like this could go on for a long time, and our people could pay for a lot of things that they don't care about. Thank you.
Chair Smith, Commissioner Fisher has her hand up.
Commissioner Fisher, go ahead.
Hey there. So while Chris was writing his talking points, I I wrote some. I'm just going to read them real quick, see if I captured it. It hit almost everything that Chris did, just in a little different format. I'm just going to pretend like I'm testifying here. It's real short. Clackamas County
ahead.
Commission supports the -8 amendments to House Bill 3065 insofar as it allows using the 1 cent gas tax flexibly to fund the I-205 project. Clackamas County appreciates the recognition that I-205 will be shovel ready and should begin construction in 2022. I don't know if that's actually factually correct, but we understand that the Oregon State Legislature has authorized tolling. We also understand that the state is involved in a process to study how tolling will be implemented. Clackamas County does not support tolling because tolling will have a disproportionate and disparate effect on the residents of Clackamas County for the following reasons. First, the main sections being studied for tolling do not include any alternate routes that can be traveled. Therefore, Clackamas County residents must use I-205 to travel around the region with no other alternative. Second, Clackamas County does not have any public transit traveling across the Abernathy Bridge through Westland to Wilsonville. Therefore, there is no alternate way for anyone to travel to avoid paying the toll. Third, Clackamas County is not on a grid system like Multnomah County, so it is much more difficult to get from one place to another. Fourth, it would be completely inequitable for Clackamas County residents who would have to pay a disproportionate higher amount for tolls to fund transportation projects across the region. We want to make sure that we put into the record that as tolling is studying across the region, that these specific factors be taken into consideration to assure that Clackamas County residents are treated equitably in the region as the state proceeds to implement tolling. And then we'd have to put in, Chair Smith, your concern about that it's not told first.
Yes.
That was in Chris's. But those are I know it needs to be wordsmithed a little bit, but I think that something like that, it's almost precisely what Chris put together. It just has a few more reasons. We have to really fight for Clackamas County residents. And now isn't the time to turn away from funding 205, but we have got, if they're going to implement tolling, it's going to be across the whole region. We have got to fight for our people really hard.
I agree. I agree with that last statement. And I really like how you wrote that, Sonia. I like it a lot. I'm more than willing to read that and read that into the record with about not tolling Clackamas County I-205 first. I think that's imperative. Holy cow.
And Chair Commissioner Schrader's hand is up.
Martha, go ahead.
You're on mute, Martha.
Here we go. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the outcome we want? The outcome is to get the dollars to retrofit the Abernathy Bridge and to expand the I-205 corridor, right? And to increase the infrastructure for a grid system, as well as having enough transit in the area. So if that's our outcome, which seems reasonable to me, if we absolutely say no to this, will it move us the needle any more towards these outcomes that we want to have? Or if we say yes, we agree, to pieces of it, and we state that tolling for us is not appropriate or reasonable option for the very reasons that Commissioner Fisher said, will that get us closer to what our end game is, which is really getting the infrastructure built? To me, that's the fundamental question. So if we take our marbles and go home, in a sense, not really, remain neutral, does that mean we get totally ignored and get absolutely nothing? But if we say to them, we can support this, but here are our concerns, and we insist on maintaining our presence at the table for negotiation out of fairness and equity for our citizens. Is that a viable outcome? Or are we just going to keep getting rolled? Because Commissioner Savas is right, we tend to get rolled pretty frequently. But is that because we are perceived as being uncooperative and unwilling to negotiate? And is that the hurdle that's stopping us from getting to what we really want to have happen, which is not only the transportation corridors, but the other pieces that go with it to have the infrastructure for the whole area? So it's a political question. So I'm more inclined to try and stay at the table. And I think if we get our resistance tolling in the public record, it's a significant piece of the public record. But Paul, I don't know if you can get there or not. I don't know if there's another pathway for us to do anything if we kind of, once again, are perceived as taking our marbles and going home. And that's what I worry about. So what
I think it's going,
I mean, part of it is we kind of, in all the years I've been here, we kind of play the poor me county card a lot. And then we kind of get into that whole victim piece that, well, we never get what we need and we never get what we want. Do we want to try a different, do we want to try and negotiate differently to really maybe move the needle forward? To me, that's the fundamental question. I don't agree with, I mean, I do agree with everything Paul said. I mean, we get constantly, I mean, that's been the theme since 2003, as far as I can recall. So Paul, what do you think? Because I trust your ability to like understand this and particularly the details.
Yeah.
But
you raised two good points. So let me just deal with the last one first. And that is, I am reluctant to cast blame on the last 38 years of our colleagues, county commissioners, as being the problem as to why the Sunrise, for example, never got funded, or 50 years or however long TriMet's been around, why we didn't get transit. I can't cast blame on them because we've had people that played nice, very diplomatic. I have a lot of respect for our previous commissioners. You know, we're not, you know who I am. I don't go in there and jump up and down with my hair on fire. I've been very diplomatic throughout this whole thing. I've been very clear. I've made our, you know, what our challenges are in Clackamas County, giving the rationale, being polite, being courteous. I think I presented myself well and represented the Clackamas County well. But I want to go back to your first thing you raised. What do we want to get out of this? Well, why do you want 205, the bottleneck, fixed? Well, the biggest reason is it's safety. It's safety due to the diversion.
Right. Yeah.
The safety on the Abernathy where bottlenecks down, but the diversion. So let's talk about diversion. We got diversion that people are driving down Willamette Falls and is bumper to bumper going through West Lynn. We have diversion and traffic accidents on Stafford Road. They fall into the culvert. There's rollovers. People died on Stafford Road because they're diverting the freeway because it's plugged up. Okay. The way this is all done right now, and the way this is set up, the diversion isn't really being addressed. They'll expand the bottleneck. That's great. But if they toll it, there's no insurance. People will be avoiding the toll. So that's why we're here. We're here because of diversion. Tolling is a problem that we don't need to create. So now the way it's set up, if they find a way to do something, let's we add transit along 205, or we do something, we increase the flow, you know, along 205 with a third lane, and we fix the bridge and all that, great, wonderful. But the diversion from the tolling will be havoc for Oregon City and especially Canby, because people are going to veer off the freeway or go through Canby, and that will be where people go to avoid the toll. And we made that perfectly clear. If you're going to study diversion, study 99E. They didn't do that.
So what should we do? Should we just say hell no?
Well, we got time. It's only May. It's only May. We got our value statement and what the ink's barely dry on that. We've got time. We make our case. Again, the bill is largely tolling. Okay. So to support the bill means you're really supporting the tolling. Actually, what we should do is either do nothing and make our case, and or say, you know what, we like the idea of the flexible penny, and we support that. But the rest of it, you don't have the answers for us yet. We don't have a solution. You haven't. There's no specificity. May isn't shell. Shell is shell, and it's May, and it's not specific to that stretch. So they've got to do something.
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Yeah.
Chris, I have a question. Do we have time, or is this is it? I mean, Paul says we have lots of time. I mean, we're looking at sine die in less than a month. They want to sine die early, June 18th, according to our information at AOC today. So we're really looking at, and there is a ton of stuff that has crossed houses. I mean, the cross on this stuff, and that I don't see us revisiting maybe this transportation package. I mean, I don't know, Chris, what's your feel?
Yeah, so per the legislative deadlines, this bill has to be scheduled for a work session by this Friday, and that work session must be held by May 28th. So they are really looking to fast track this. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last public hearing on the bill.
Colleagues, do we like what Commissioner Fisher wrote?
Well, I don't have. There's nothing in there I'm adverse to, but there needs to be more in there. And there needs to be specificity. Our staff, I don't want to. Our staff have really sent these messages. They're just not in the bill.
Well, Paul, we asked, now, how can we be specific when we asked to take a high level approach? We can't do both. We asked, just stop. We asked to take a high level approach on this and not get specific. So we can't come back and say, oh, we need to. I like the tone of what Sonia Fisher wrote. I like how she says it. We come right out, and what Chris wrote, we come right out and say we do not support tolling. But for all of us who answer to the same constituency, none of our constituents, I don't think, oh, gee, I can't wait to play toll on I-205. None of it like it. We all can go out and say we oppose tolling, but we took the money for the expansion of the I-205 because it was writing on the wall. I mean, the Federal Highway Commission has basically said, you know what, Oregon, you're going to have to come along. We're one of the few states left that doesn't have tolls. And I would bet you that the federal folks are looking at Oregon saying, gee, what's their skin in the game? And so far, we don't have a lot of skin in the game that I see coming out of the legislature. Is that right, Chris, as far as transportation dollars are concerned? I mean, I'm not sure how far the gas tax is. I'm not sure how far vehicle registration is going, other than just to maintain what we have.
Well, I can tell you for the 205 project, ODOT has applied for federal funding in the past. And one of the challenges with getting it was there was very little local and state match.
Yeah, very little skin in the game. Yeah.
And Commissioner Fisher's hand is up.
Commissioner Fisher, go for it.
My hand is not really up.
Oh.
So I'm wordsmithing this, and I'm thinking that I can get it to Chris. He can plop in the, don't toll that one section first. Honestly, that map that shows the uber super tolling area near the
crosshatch.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like terrifying.
I know.
So that's the piece that we have to fight. But they could fix every one of those concerns when they study this tolling. They could put a cap on how many tolls a Clackamas County resident has to pay every month. They can put income. So if you make a certain amount of income, you only pay a certain amount. That we make sure that we have some sort of transit from Clackamas Town Center to Wilsonville. My gosh. So, I mean, we could fix all this before we do this. And that's why we just have to really be strong.
Okay, go for it.
Am I up?
Yeah, do you want to be up?
Yeah. So I want to just address what I said, Chair, maybe re-clarify it so you understand what I said. So when I said that staff have done a great job and we've done a lot of work, yep, the board stayed at high level with that document, with our value statement, but our staff have been working and communicating the specifics like they do. That's what they're supposed to do. They've done a great job. At my level, when I've had those opportunities, I have laid out those specifics as well. They're just not in the bill.
So, but what I was saying, Paul, maybe you didn't understand me when I said we asked for the bill to be high level. And I think we do have flexibility. Let me see. Let me go back to my notes. Language is flexible. We asked for that and it is. We asked for to high level language in this bill and it is. But I think we can state some specifics in my testimony for consideration. And you know what? If I come out and say this, maybe all the other jurisdictions are saying the same thing as we are. And maybe our legislative delegation from Clackamas County is waiting for us to make this statement on tolling, because my very first meeting that I had with the Clackamas County delegation, all of our electeds, regardless of party, Democrat or Republican, opposed tolling. Okay, they all did. And I think they're waiting for us to take the lead with supporting the money that's going to come our way on this, but tell the people who are implementing the tolls in how they need to be done, and just go forward with that. That's where I'm inclined to go with that. I do think we can negotiate it. I do think we need to take a different approach from Clackamas County on this. We've always been taking the approach of heck no on all this stuff. And where's it got us? This is as close as we have come in at least 20 years that I can see on the I-205 expansion. Yes, sir, sir. So with that in mind, does anybody have their hand up?
No, don't see any, Chair.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna vote again. Are we ready to vote?
What are we voting on?
So we are going to vote on the language on House Bill 3065, and gee, I do not have it up in my. Gary, do we need to restate the motion?
Yes, please. If someone would make the motion, which was in your original script, it is to support the -8 amendments with the changes you've made today.
Yes, I'm looking for that. Just a minute. I have a ton of emails in here. Just a minute. Where the heck is it? Oh, here's the script. Does somebody want to make a motion? There it is. I found it.
Commissioner Schrader, you're muted if you're speaking, Ms. Commissioner Schrader.
I will make the motion again. Do I need to repeat it word for word?
Just in general, yes, or by memory. please.
How about just House Bill 3065 with the -8 amendments?
Okay. Okay, I move we support the -8 amendments and continue to vocalize the need to complete both phases of the I-205 bottleneck project per the original intent of House Bill 2017. Should I add something with added language that elaborates on our aversion to tolling?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Do I hear a second? I'll second the motion. And the added language is what Sonia Fisher wrote and Chris wrote, and then we also add do not toll I-205 first.
Right.
However, we're going to word that. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Fisher's hand is raised.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, so I am totally fine with Chris integrating and massaging this a bit. I thought that his talking points were beautiful. My only concern about Chair Smith reading them as written is that it kind of loses our aversion. It doesn't necessarily lose our aversion to tolling because it would come right out and say it in the beginning. But I want us to get in the record what we need this study to do as we move forward.
Okay.
I think that's really, really important. So
Did you
got
add that?
Yeah, I gave it all to Chris. I totally trust our staff because what the talking points that Chris came up with were very much in line. They're almost identical to what I was thinking. So good work.
I can do that.
Chris is smiling a little bit. I see some teeth.
It was a team effort, and I'll add that our talking points included what Chair Smith has raised about the earlier tolling. So we already have that language ready to go.
Yeah. So I'm good.
Okay. So we go ahead with a vote. Tracy, would you like to?
Oh, yes. Oh, Commissioner Savis's hand is raised.
Yeah.
Go, Paul.
Just want to let everyone know, we've had a great working relationship with ODOT at the staff level, at the elected level, or the OTC level, across the board. All the consultants, everyone's been working fine. We all been playing nice in the sandbox. The relationships are good. They understand our concerns. They're just not, again, in the bill. And to one clarifying thing, Commissioner Fisher, this is not a study. If you read the bill, this is the legislative mechanics framework in order to implement the tolling legally. So that's what the bill is. If you look at the bill,
Okay.
that's what
Okay.
it is. So
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. We're going to take the vote now.
Chair, Commissioner Scholl's hands up now.
Oh, Commissioner Scholl, you haven't hardly talked. Go
Yes.
ahead.
I just want a point clarified. That this vote is going to be to accept, if we vote yes, to accept the -8 amendments to HB 3065 and to include the points that Commissioner Fisher made. Is that correct?
Yes, with the point I made about not tolling I-205 first.
Yes, and so a yes vote doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying yes to HB 3065 in its totality, correct?
Chris, you want to answer that? Usually what happens in the legislature is you vote on the amendments and then you vote on the bill as amended. So you go through line by line, and this line out of the amendments, this line is substituted for this line in the original bill. But the amendments totally changes the original bill. Sometimes they don't even look alike. But yeah, Paul, basically it's the -8 amendments is what we're voting on.
Understood.
Right. And now I see Commissioner Fisher followed by Commissioner Savis.
Yeah, so hey, Paul, I did read the bill and I understood it, so correct me if I'm wrong. You are absolutely right. It creates the legal framework for moving forward with tolling. The 2017 already did the bulk of that policy. But what's happening, as I understand it from the things that you presented to us in your liaison role, is that the how-tos of how tolling would be implemented is being studied, that those decisions are not made as far as how it will be implemented equitably across the region.
Right.
True?
well, yeah, I would say that'll continue on after tolling's even implemented. They'll be learning and studying and readjusting. So the study, from that point of view, that will continue on in perpetuity.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Well, we should be able to adjust over time because as we learn, well, what works and what doesn't. And maybe we look at certain hours and certain lanes. I mean, I have no idea. Look, I have no idea about the mechanics of that. And we're just gonna have to, be at the table. It's better than being on the menu. Okay, can we have a vote now?
I still have my hand up, Chair.
Well, I
Okay.
thought you did. I thought you talked already.
No, nope, I didn't. I was just answering a question from Commissioner Fisher. So I want to just respond to Commissioner Scholl's question. And maybe Chris could clarify, because Chris, it sounded like you said this is probably, once it goes into a work session, this might be our only chance to give input, correct? Or our last chance to give input.
This may be our last chance to give public testimony.
There you go.
There may be opportunities outside of that to keep influencing.
Right.
Yeah. But again, my reluctance is because we've gotten this far and we don't have that specifics in there. That tells me the writing's on the wall, that this is more about revenue generation than it is about helping Clackamas County out with the diversion and the safety and the impacts or transit. Period.
Well, if this, we don't know what will happen tomorrow, and if this goes back into a work group to hammer things out, we can have that on our wish list to continue to advocate.
And that could happen.
Yeah,
We don't know who's gonna say what tomorrow. It very well could happen.
Yeah.
the way that I wanted to frame our position is we support moving forward with I-205 and we have these concerns. So we're
I
not
think-
putting us on the record in supporting what all of those amendments do.
Sure. Okay, let's vote. Tracy, please call the poll.
Yes, starting with Commissioner Schrader,
I unmute. Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
No.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion passes 4-1, and I take my hats off to all of you who have made wonderful contributions to this. And you know what? Let's just keep fighting for Clackamas County values. Okay, very good work. I appreciate you all very much. We came together and we're going to try to move forward with this, and we'll see what happens. Goodbye.
Are you adjourning?
We are adjourning.
Ernie?
Thank you.